I wanted to come in here. Hello, friends, on all the social platforms. It's been a little while since I have engaged video-wise here with you. And I really have no idea even what is about to be shared. That being said, I just had this very strong pull to come in live with you and speak to some of the integration that I've been navigating through, as well as some of the invitations I'm being asked to step into, and we are being asked to step into. And a lot of it has to do with our leadership and how we show up as individuations of the source fields. So you likely saw that I had previously stopped the enrollment for the 13th dimension, which was supposed to open in February. Now it's not going to open until March. And I wanted to talk about that process with you because the 13th dimension is a great success. It has been one of my highest, grossing programs, probably of all of my programs or almost all of my programs. And it has also been such an initiation through what that work is that last year running it, a lot of people had to part from the space because of the level of energetic commitment and devotion that is invited to be stepped into when you start to work at a planetary level of consciousness, as well as how that has changed and transformed who I get to be in service to you and the planet. And how business has operated through this emanation for the last decade now has to change because I've changed. And it's expanding into really moving beyond any sense of hierarchy in the work, which is very difficult. It is very difficult to dismantle the structures of hierarchy, especially when money is involved, especially when time is involved, especially when exchanges are happening. Whew. As well as moving beyond the victim, victimizer, rescuer marketing that is the vast majority of sales and marketing techniques that have been utilized online for as long as we've been online. So it's been an interesting unraveling of really getting the clarity of how to lead from this city of virtue. So just to backstep here with you all, for those of you who are familiar with the Gene Keys, I hold the entire ring of unification in this body's hologenetic profile, true hologenetic profile with the pristine, correct astrological alignments. And the 7th gene, that is all about leadership. At the shadows, we have that alpha leader, that leadership through force and domination. At the gift, we have guidance, the leadership through facilitation, through the heart, the, I guess you could say, higher ideals of what democracy could be that has still been, that was birthed through the foundations of the shadow. And whenever anything is birthed through the foundations of the shadow of fear and scarcity and separation, then even a beautiful idea can be corrupted. And then at the city of this gene is leadership through vision, through your higher seventh chakra. It is visionary leadership. And it is really entering into a space of virtue. So the past several years, and really deeply inside of the 13th dimension last year, we were studying and choosing to bring our lives into alignment with the 13 virtues that represent the consciousness of the 13 dimensions of density 4 down. Well, technically 13 is in density 5. That being said, in that space, when you are putting so much energy into really excavating from your consciousness all of the ways that you are out of resonance with one of the virtues, to bring yourself into an entrainment with that frequency, an entrainment with the higher way of being, higher consciousness in your body. And the virtue really flowers from within through that practice. It really awakens through within with that practice. And a lot of like systems and structures and miasms of the mind just kind of start to dissolve, and you begin to look at the world in such a present now moment that a lot of ways of being that are involved in like business become obsolete, and you're kind of left at this place of like being invited to develop a new way forward that hasn't really been, at least not in this epoch of humanity that has been predominantly shadow driven, 100% shadow leadership, is a very interesting task. So that is what I've been doing in silence, because ultimately the answers to that can't be sought through the mind. They can't be hypothesized. They can't be thought up. They can't really even be imagined. They have to simply arrive and arise from within, from the pulse of source and that connection to that field. And it takes a lot of silence to receive that. And the deepest question that I've been allowing to move this transformation in the living work that is this life's creation is, how do we enter into an exchange that involves money without hierarchy? How do we enter into an exchange where one person is being in service to another without hierarchy, without the fundamental underlays of certain distortions rising up from within? And really that is in the hands of the leader, that is in the hands of the person that is initiating the exchange, and how it is spoken about and how it is advertised and marketed, the language, the energy behind it, the intention, the vision. And to have that clear, pure field that the virtues can rise up from within takes a tremendous amount of surrender and letting go, and continually fine-tuning the vehicle to become more aware to the distortions when they arise up from within, because they are there, they're existing everywhere around us still, even though we are at a different space as far as the planet is concerned energetically. Those foundational distortions that have built this matrix are still existing everywhere around us. They're living and breathing inside the vast majority of people. And there can be this voice that comes up that says, because this seventh gene really holds this awareness that when you are operating from a space of leadership from the gift or from the acidic frequency and no longer from the shadows, the only beings that can actually recognize your leadership are ones that are also living from that gift, or also living from that acidic frequency, or have at least touched it to recognize it tangibly in the body. And humanity is very far from a space where the majority of people are recognizing that leadership. So what that does internally then is, when you're being guided to fully surrender to that leadership, to that creation process, and you are doing so in a space where the threads of that shadow frequency of leadership through force and manipulation and hierarchy and domination and all these different things are literally coming in from every direction. You can hear the frequency band. When you get very quiet internally, you can hear the frequency of the now moments. And then you can hear the frequency of this entire experience when you really fine tune your body. More of that clear audience comes online, and you can start to hear the trillions of pulsing frequencies that are swirling, and the vast majority of them are very chaotic and static noise, and those are the distorted frequencies. They literally get bent and fragmented, and they sound like the radio when you have tuned it like just out of alignment. It's like white noise. So when you get silence to call in a new level of creation that hasn't really been embodied here before, you hear the now, and then you hear the noise, and you get to become so silent and internal, and then work through all the different parts of self that come up and are like, well, shoot, what if no one can actually recognize this level of stillness and presence and leadership, because there's so much noise and there's very few threads of purity that come through. You can find them, it just takes time. It takes the right space, the right grids as well, which is why I really enjoy where we live, in the space that we live, in the mountains that we live, because you can actually get to a silence that is free of noise and is simply pure frequency coming through. And it's very rare to find places like that. Even places that are considered to be sacred or holy or very activated, a lot of the most active places on the planet, the hub sites, the Ark of the Covenant sites, the gate sites, the stargates, the ley lines, these are spaces where there is a tremendous amount of noise, because there's been so much pressure from both sides of this equation here, from the side that is feeding off and from the side that is trying to reclaim the connection to source. So finding spaces that are really pure, clean, silent is very rare. The space that we're in right now is actually a similar space here in just south of Rosarito in Baja, Mexico. There's very little static, chaotic noise, which has been so nice to have in different energies, where a lot of this understanding is coming through, because we get to stare out into the ocean every day and like see the unified field in front of us and allow that to inform this creative process. So that's ultimately what has been underway, is really getting to a space of realization and recognition that there was this piece that I happened to pick up one of a book that I read a while ago recently from Alice Bailey. I think it's Trees on White Magic, and just randomly opened one page, and in that page was written a piece about, the vast majority will not understand this. I am writing for those that will, for those that do, and for those that are understanding this. And it's a small percentage, and that is okay. Sometimes when we plug into that collective pulse, especially with what social media has created, it can be very easy to get swept up into this like grandiose experience of success through service to vast numbers of people and tens of thousands of people being in programs, and that can be this allure that kind of pulls you in. And I think a lot of people in the mentoring space have really been unraveling some of those threads and and unplugging from some of those experiences over the last several months of the last big, where the North and South node are currently in transit, has been a really big unraveling of these systems of being pulled into someone else's vision and into someone else's idea of success and creation process, because that is what has been portrayed and is trending as what success looks like. And it's really important to realize that that's not what success is for everyone, right? And I actually really resonate with being here to support, serve, and be in union with a very small group of beings who understand that we come together in union. And this has been the bigger contemplation that actually led me to stop posting for some time and to rework certain programs, as some feedback in comments, primarily on Facebook, where people engage a little bit more. If you're on Instagram with me, like, engage, connect more, send me messages, comments. I love connecting. That being said, the primary engagement that I receive is really on Facebook, and I'm not sure why that is. That being said, it just has been that way. I am not attached to it, and I'm open for that to change. So let's connect here if you are with me on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, wherever this video ends up. So the feedback was coming through from a lot of emanations of source that were very, very triggered by the language that I expressed, our unification, and how that was really the source field that I'm moving through is dissolving beyond separation, because that is one of my core codes, is union, right? Union in relation, intimacy, coming together. And I'm not talking about sexuality in any way, shape, or form. You know, I've spent the last several years in celibacy, so intimacy is something totally beyond. It involves sexuality if we choose. That being said, it's something totally beyond that. It is a piercing into a soul, and a seeing, and a meeting, and an empathy that can transform us. So that, I think the key space that this unlocked was in October of last year, the activations that were coming through the planet and that were coming through, that were being shared inside of the 13th dimension, where the planetary Templar work is happening. A big, like, transition just took place. It was like a switch happened internally. And one day I was in a space where there was still you and I, there was still separation in some way, even though it was understood in the mind that that's an illusion. It was not physiologically felt and embodied and anchored and landed until that initiation that was ignited through one of the core Templar activations that came through last year at the end of the year. And once that was like, that expansion took place to now be the base tone and no longer just something that was touched once or twice in experiences, like once or twice that field had been touched. People touch that field when they are on like DMT and things of that nature, which I do not recommend at all to touch these fields, because it's an artificial creation of something that is so natural and beautiful. So having the experiences though, where you get to touch it for a moment, like, helps it to land. Wow, this is what's possible. This is why I am sacrificing and devoting and showing up and continuing to move through what most people would absolutely run from. And we can say that with absolute certainty because of the numbers of people that are on pharmaceutical drugs, specifically for things like mental distress and anxiety and distortions of the mental body, which can all be signs of the spiritual initiation that is underway on this planet, and a fear of that. So a seeking out from, quite frankly, sources that do not have any intelligence in this space to guide and facilitate the level of transformation that's possible. So to enter into that very difficult initiation, sober, free of anything that would aid it and allow it to be smoother and easier, and just choosing to be burning in the fires of your soul coming into your body fully. Having those moments prior of getting to touch that unified field and feeling it and knowing it, like, just to help you be that, okay, this is why we continue to show up and say yes to this, because this is what is possible to be lived and experienced. Even though it was only touched for a blip of time, it is possible because it has existed in this body. So now that that is the everyday existence, how language, how words, I've been writing a lot and not sharing any of it because the few bits that I did share got just so much like volatile energy. And I understand that that volatile energy is simply because it has not been felt. It has not been felt in the awareness that is that being sending the volatile energy. And that volatile energy is actually the part of them that knows that it's truth, trying to awaken from within and bring that to the surface, bring that awareness to the surface. And instead it gets directed externally because the victim-victimizer program is still running. And I'm no longer here for that. And I also am no longer here for the process that an experience of life goes through to free themselves from that. I'm here for those that have freed themselves from that and are here to have a more bespoke experience of intimacy and union in collaboration and really being the power behind the throne. Like, I see us, you, everyone here as cosmic royalty, as a part of this experience. And I can only see you through the lens of where I've tapped into now, and have gratitude for where you are currently in your experience. And to know that in order to support people to go from here to here, when awareness is here, requires awareness to come into here, and that no longer is actually serving this body, right? It's no longer serving this body. So now, like, the source field of awareness is saying there gets to be beings that are here showing the way into leadership beyond hierarchy, beyond victim-victimizer, beyond sales and marketing tactics, beyond all of that, who know that everyone is free. You're free. You don't need anything. You are everything. Like, wow, how amazing. So then why do we invest in things? Why do we, get support? Why do we, seek out acupuncture, right? One thing that this body utilizes as a non-negotiable technology. It's because you choose it, right? You choose it because it is a desire to merge in deeper intimacy with people who are operating at a similar frequency to where you're operating. And you know that when you come together, you move worlds and create at lightning speed. And it's a very small group of people that get that. And being here, if you're listening to this, some part of you can grasp it or are at it or experiencing it, which is really the framework for how the 13th dimension is opening back up with three pathways of entering. The pathway of remembrance, where it is the mystery school teachings that have been, that were, and that will continue to be, that are really for that path of remembrance, that path of awakening. And then there is the path of guidance, which is more of that gift of the seventh frequency, the seventh gene year of leadership, where we are calling forth guidance and facilitation in more of a master hearts and more of a meeting in communion with others from our hearts, and allowing for that pulse to be the guiding forth direction of the shared space, where the access is still there to the mystery teachings that are in the curriculum of the 13th dimension. That being said, that is not necessarily the focus. It is more an experience that you can weave in and out of in your own timing and be guiding into that space, because what's most important is actually being in a union with other, the space of the path of guidance in the 13th dimension is going to just be for women at this time. The path of remembrance is for everyone. That being said, the two evolved paths from that are going to be simply for women, because that's what feels really fun and activated and alive at this time. And that's it. And I feel really good about that. So there's that piece. And it's really for those that are in the space of recognizing that, you know, all these things on social media are constantly like grabbing at our attention, like, oh, you need to perfect your sales, you need to perfect your marketing, you need to perfect your branding, you need to perfect your imaging, you need to perfect your copy and your writing, and all these things that are outside of yourself that quite honestly don't fucking matter as far as like building your soul's success. Right? That all happens within, going deeper and deeper within and excavating all of the shadow leadership dynamics from your field, from your system, and coming deeper and deeper and deeper into an integrity within, and letting everything flow from that space, and practicing speaking and moving and living boldly from that space is really where the artistry of the path of guidance and that master heart space is for. And the third space, the third path that's opening, that will include the previous two, so access to the mystery school and access to the mastermind, the master heart, mastermind space. It's one and the same, only we are moving through our hearts, is the path of emanation. And the path of emanation is for an even smaller group of women. And it is the master heart space, as well as one-on-one intimacy and communion within a shared space with yours truly. And it's very interesting because one-on-one support was the foundations of Jessica's business for several years, 5 or 6 years. When I soul braided in, I was like, cut that shit off, no more one-on-one. And that was mainly because of this body's process of being penetrated by such a strong force that everything had to be so fine-tuned and everything had to be directed inwards. And there was simply no space to be creating intimacy that a one-on-one connection requires with anyone other than Ahaumna in this body. And it wouldn't have been fair or an integrity to bring anyone else into that space when it was solely about this body, 150%. And the directive has just come in, the body and everything and how it's moving and the union that's arising has just come in to open that aspect up in a new way where we get to be in a shared co-creation together, and we get to be in a non-hierarchical support where I get to be the power behind the throne, and you're the throne, you're the royalty at the throne. And I'm simply here to serve that with the frequency that I'm emitting and transmitting and evolving through. And it feels really beautiful and yummy. And there's only going to be 5 spaces for this. There's going to be 15 spaces in the Master Heart, and anyone can join the actual remembrance, path of remembrance, the mystery school. That will always continue to be open for everyone who's ready to have the depth of wisdom that's available in that space, like penetrate you and activate you deeply at your core. That being said, the other 2 paths, like they need to be quite small in their numbers because they're very large in their energy. The people that are coming in are holding a massive energy with connection to thousands of guardians and beings and running so many different planetary energies through their body that require someone to be very present and devoted to supporting a being that's holding that. And I know, because I know what it's like for me to have found someone that can hold me as I step into that leadership, what that person's energy has basically needed to hold. And really it was multiple people, because some of us are at the leading edge, and that leading edge is not better than. It actually fucking sucks most of the time, to be completely honest, because it means you have to hold so much more density with so much more light simultaneously and do the work at the forefront so that everyone that comes after us doesn't have to go through such a difficult path with it. So I think that's one of the most important things, that when we speak in these ways, it's recognize that it actually isn't a superiority thing. It isn't anything other than a task to go first and to be at that leading edge. And I know that, and the 5 other women who know that and get that and are inviting in a space of union and support with someone else who has arrived at that is very sacred and beautiful and rare. And that is what I'm here for, and I'm here to hold. See if anything else wants to come through. With that all being said, I am planning on opening up and sharing more about this on Monday. I'm just working out all of the technological logistics and have it all put together now. I'm just continuing to let the pulse of the new way move through. And I'm really opening up and calling in all of those beings who know deep in the core of your being that you are here to be the living example of success in a new way. No longer playing in these hierarchical structures, these victim-victimizer structures, these sales and marketing tactics, and in this need, like you need me to help you. Like, fuck it, you're free, you don't need You don't need me or anyone else. How beautiful is that? And you recognize that I am you, and it feels really, really amazing sometimes to be held and loved and met as deep as we are able to meet ourselves by another human. And that is incredibly valuable. That is incredibly valuable, and that is worthy of our greatest energy exchanges with money, with time, with presence. And that's it. Yeah. So I'm excited and I'm here for it. And I also want to just, how do I turn this camera on, at least for those on Instagram? Feeling that code here with me. Loving you all. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be alive. Grateful for all the different fractals of our existence that are coming online in this moment through this transmission, that are saying yes, that are wanting to be a part of it in any way. And if you are feeling like even before I put any information out, you're wanting to be a part of this, just send me a message. Let's vibe. And it's all love. Bye, family. See you again soon.